Stephen King, often described as the king of horror, is a legendary author who has sold over 350 million copies of his books. He went from being abandoned by his father when he was 2, witnessing his friend being killed by a train as a kid, to publishing 61 novels, over 200 short stories, and becoming one of the world's richest authors. Need motivation?
Watch Top 10 with Believe Nation.
Top 10, I got a top 10. Got my motivation high for my top 10. Gotta learn from the wise women and men. All my life, like na 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 na. For my top 10, top 10, na 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 na. This one's for my top 10.
Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and I make these videos because you are probably the most ambitious person that you know, but you also know that you're capable of more, and you get that push by surrounding yourself with the best. So today, let's learn from one of the best, Stephen King, and my take on his top 10 rules of success. Enjoy. Okay, let's kick it off with rule number 1. Don't fear rejection.
I had a very pleasant, ordinary childhood. But of course, I would say that. Anyway. No, I did. My brother and I were raised by a single parent. Our mom, we were latchkey kids before there were latchkey kids. And we grew up out in the country, and we had the usual friends. And my brother and I were both readers. And at some point along the way, I decided that I wanted to be a writer. So I started to type up stories on an old typewriter that I had, and I started to send them to magazines, and I pounded a nail into the wall, and I'd get the rejection slips back, and I would put them on that nail, and around the time that I turned 17 or 18, the nail fell out of the wall because there were so many rejection slips on it, so I got a bigger nail. And if there's any secret that I know to success, it's if you don't succeed, get a bigger nail.
Rule number 2, don't overthink.
I've had writer's block. It's the kind of thing that I think you work through as time passes, but I think that, you know, when people say, how does creativity work? My response is it works just fine, as long as you don't examine what you're doing too closely. I think that there are certain processes, sex is one, where the more you think about it, the worse your performance becomes. Sometimes it's just best to rear back and let her rip. So I've had it, but the last time that I had it in a really serious way was when I was teaching, writing courses, and thinking about the process of writing instead of doing it.
Rule number 3, keep pushing forward.
What did you think of your future prospect of a writer when you published your first book?
Oh, I didn't have any idea. I'll tell you what. The first book was Carrie, and the advance for Carrie was $2,500. And my wife said, she said, don't make any big plans for that money, Steve. We have to buy a car. And we did. We bought a Ford Pinto, as a matter of fact. It was snot green. It was the only one they had. It was a Standard. She couldn't drive a Standard. But we were very excited. You know, there was a telegram that came saying the book has been accepted, $2,500. And we were lying in bed one night, and she said, is there a possibility that there'll be anything more from this? And I said, well, if they sell the paperback, Doubleday has a 50-50 split, and whatever they sold it for, we would get half of that money. And she said, how much do you think that might be? And I said, well, they might sell it for as much as $60,000, and if that happened, we'd get $30,000, and I could, you know, a little running room, write another book, and maybe not have to go back and teach school right away. It would be like getting a sabbatical year, you know, at school. And so we were living in a really terrible apartment in Bangor, Maine, and it was a first floor apartment. They had the Friday night fights in the apartment above us, and we had our Pinto, and that was really about all that we had. And the phone rang one day. Tabby was up visiting her parents. It was a Sunday, and it was my editor from Doubleday, and he said, we sold the paperback rights. And I said, really, how much did you get? And he said, $250,000. And we were living in a $90 a month apartment at that time. And we had a baby, and we had another baby on the way. And no, I take that back, because Joe had been born then. We had 2 kids, no money, and a brand new Pinto that my wife couldn't drive because it was a standard. He said $250,000, and the strength went out of my legs. There was a wall phone in the kitchen, and I sat down on the floor. And I said, did you say $25,000? And he said, no, $250,000. And we talked about that for a while, and he hung up, and my wife was gone, and I couldn't call her because she had left her parents' house. I wanted to tell her in person anyway, and I walked around and stuff, and I thought to myself, I have to buy her a present. I've got to buy her a present, but it was Sunday, and the only place open was the Rexall Drug. So I bought her a hairdryer. And you know, at that point, when you're looking ahead, it never occurred to me that anything like what has happened to me in my career would ever happen to me. All I wanted was a little running room to be able to write the next book.
Rule number 4, find out what you're good at.
Had you always wanted to be a writer?
Well, I had the ambitions that kids have, that you want to grow up and become a Texas Ranger and fight Indians in the West, and then you discover, well, we're not really fighting the Indians anymore. That's just at the movies. Or you want to be a fireman or a policeman. Those were all passing fancies. I seem to remember that I wanted to be an astronomer for a while and study the stars. But you find out what you're good at. And if you're real lucky, and I was, what you're good at is something that you love to do.
Also, if you want to learn what other writers have to say about success, check out my 254 Writer's Wisdom series. It's free. The link to join is in the description below.
Because I do it for free if I couldn't do it for money, but I love doing it for money.
A lot of times when people come to see me, they want to see if I'm really f***ed up.
How many times in your life have you eaten eggs? But there's always a new way to fix eggs.
Rule number 5, hustle.
I was working first in a laundry, and then I got a job teaching school for the princely sum of $6,400 a year. My wife and I married young, had kids young, so we were stupid, it happens. And those checks came in handy. $200 here, $300 there. And of course I was very proud, and I wanted my mother to see my published stories. And my wife came up with this beautiful gimmick, because she would photocopy them, because she worked in the Fogler Library at the University of Maine. And she would put strips of blacking over the ads for the X-rated movies and the dating sites and all the rest of it. And I sent them off to my mother, and she was always pleased, and she would always say, "What magazine was that in?" And I'd say, "Well, actually, Mom, it's in one of those men's magazines, but it buys penicillin for the baby's ear infection," and she liked that.
Rule number 6, appreciate the change.
A book is a fine thing to have in your hand and turn the pages on a summer day, but so's a Kindle. And if I'm in the car, I can listen to a book on audio, and you have to teach yourself to appreciate every one of those forms. It changes. But when the doomsayers say, "Oh, this is going to kill the book," no, the book is not the important part. The book is the delivery system. The important part is the story and the talent.
Rule number 7, value your own time.
What did 11/22/63 reveal to you that you didn't know at the beginning?
Well, the first thing is probably not to write another historical novel. But I think what it taught me is that it's possible to appreciate your own time, and it's possible to get some perspective on the past by trying to relive it. Obviously, nobody can go back and change the events of the past, but I certainly felt enriched by the time that I spent rediscovering the 50s and 60s.
Rule number 8, be humble.
We've spoken to lots of people in Bangor, and they say about you that you're a nice, ordinary guy who has not been changed by wealth or fame. Is the decision not to be changed, is it a conscious decision of yours?
No, I think I've been changed, and it certainly wasn't a conscious decision on my part not to change. People do what they're built to do. I'm convinced of that. I think that we have free will, but that it's a pretty small area. I grew up not even middle class. I grew up poor in Maine. And really, the only thing that I ever knew to want was to, in terms of material possessions, to have a car that wouldn't break down. We're back at cars again now, you see. I wanted that. As a man, I wanted to be married and to raise children and find out what it was to be a father, because my own father kind of ran out, and I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to repeat that.
Rule number 9, read books.
Elected officials who are supposed to be the best, the smartest, often resort to outright misinformation. As when the governor of my own state, Paul LePage, I love this, he told a town hall audience that asylum seekers were bringing the Zika fly to Maine. The statement is mind-boggling in its own right. That Governor LePage might have believed it is more so, that many accept it as a fact, is the most mind-boggling thing of all. It's like watching a grown-up nod and say, yeah, Santa, small sleigh, that makes sense, yeah. The ability to think clearly and logically leads to good decision-making, and I believe the ability to think clearly grows along with the ability to read.
And rule number 10, the last one before a very special bonus clip, is have fun.
I also like to start off by reminding you that the NIA, National Insurance Association of America, did a survey in 2002, said that 1 in 50 people at large public events forget to lock their cars. And it probably won't be dark when we get out of here. But if someone were to find your car unlocked and hide, why, that would be a crazy thing to do. So you would want to check that. And that same survey about home safety and the safety that people take when they go out says that 1 in, I think it's like 220, forget to lock their houses when they go out. And it will be dark when you get home. And if somebody were to creep in, they go to the bathroom and hide in the shower. I saw it at the movies, man. It just happens. They hide in the shower. And I think that if you're sitting there thinking, well, it doesn't matter because I have one of those see-through shower curtains, then they're behind the door. They know that as well. But really, that's all bullshit. See, I just made all that up, the statistics, it's all just bullshit. My wife and I have been married since 1971, which means that we've been married over 40 years, and she calls those facts out of Steve's ass.
Now I've got a special bonus clip from Stephen King on how to be spontaneous that I think you're gonna enjoy. But before that, it's time for the question of the day. I wanna know, what do you need to stop overthinking? Let me know, put it down in the comments below. And if you made it this far in the video, you're still here watching, give me a hashtag believe down in the comments below. I wanna celebrate you. We don't just watch videos here, we do something about it. So give me that believe in the comments below too.
What preoccupies you most when you think about your writing today?
No, there's no overview. There's no big picture for me. I have stuff that I want to write. Ordinarily, I would be in the middle of a project now, but as it just so happens, I have some stuff that I have ahead that I want to do, but I'm at a caesura right now. I'm not doing anything, but when I'm working, I'm always thinking like one step ahead, 1 day ahead, 2 days ahead.
Really?
And
No master plan?
there's no master plan. There never
I would
was.
think you'd be more of a chess player. I would think there would be 4 steps ahead.
No, I mean, I have a friend, John Irving, who wrote The World According to Garp
Sure.
and a number of books, and he says the first thing that he does is write the last line of his novel. And I'm thinking to myself, that is awful. I mean, you know how it comes out. I don't work that way. I'm seat-of-the-pants guy.
But even in a broader sense, you don't have a sense of where, I know I want to write a book about this 3 books from now. Or
No.
something like that. But you're so
gosh.
prolific, it would be natural to think that that would be the case.
No. Do I know what I want to do next? No, I don't. Actually, I don't. I got a number of sort of half-baked ideas, but there's nothing that's very concrete.
If you want to see the top 10 I did on Elizabeth Gilbert, check out the video right there next to me. I think you'll enjoy it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
And I feel it's that I have to, and I don't feel like I have to necessarily out of responsibility to them because, again, I don't know if it's useful.